are talking about UAT now, which is user acceptance testing. Okay, it is user acceptance testing. So when we are saying user acceptance testing, the question is then uh, who will write the test cases? Who will write cases? That may be one question. Who will execute those? Execute those. When to perform this? Right? When to perform these questions? And overall, what is UAT? The question is, maybe the first question is, what is UAT first of all, right? So let's understand, when we are saying user acceptance testing, it is related to acceptance part from the user. And when we are saying user, it's the real user, not the test engineers. Okay, I'm repeating it. When we are saying user, it should be accepted by the user, not the test engineers. Okay. So user acceptance testing should be done by the user. One thing. Okay. So user should be involved in any case. In any case, user will be involved. But the problem is when you have large scale application, right? So for example, let's say somebody is making a messaging system like WhatsApp, something like that, right? So we cannot directly ask to the user, hey, test this, right? So generally what happens is there are client-facing team, or sometimes there are business analysts, okay, who represents the user, okay, or the product people, we say. They should be involved in UAT. There is a bad practice where, the test engineers themselves are performing UAT, right? The test engineer themselves should not perform UAT because, they are already doing their functional check, non-functional check. Then why they should do UAT? If they will be doing it, it will be just the subset of their own test cases which they have created, right? So keeping in mind that user should be involved, then only UAT should happen. Okay. Now the question is, who will write these test cases and who will execute those? So ideally, this kind of scenarios or cases will come from the real user themselves or the representative of the user. Okay. And who should execute it? Same thing. Because the person who is writing the test case, they knows better like why they have created that kind of scenario. So the same person or the group of people who represents the user should execute this. Ideally, this should happen. This is not happening maybe in some of the company, or maybe if you are working somewhere, maybe it is not happening. Now the question is when to perform this. This will come at the end. So for example, if you're working on a sprint, right? You're working on a sprint or some other software development model where you are developing something, some features within 15 days or 21 days, right? So you are performing a lot of things, right? You do functional checks or functional testing. You perform all kind of non-functional also, correct? And once you will deliver it, that okay, from our side it's working fine, then UAT will happen. User acceptance testing will happen. How it is different from the normal functional check? Let's understand that part. When user will create their own scenario that is mostly based on how they are interacting with the system, and what is their their expectation from the system, right? To make it more simple, I have opened a blog here where the definition part and some theoretical part is here. Let's understand in that way. Okay. So user acceptance testing is an important phase of software development process that verifies whether a product or software is fit for the purpose it was built for it for in the first place. Okay. So there is a proper purpose how user will be using it, right? So it should fulfill business requirement and it should provide a good user experience to the end user. That's why we are doing UAT. Okay. Now the thing is UAT, there are types of UAT, right? Technically or theoretically, let's understand this part now, that there is alpha testing and beta testing. Primarily, generally, there are two types of user acceptance testing, alpha testing and beta testing. Alpha testing will be conducted by a small group of internal users and is used to identify any major issues with the software before it is released to a larger group of users. Okay. So that is one thing. You should do more research about alpha testing. Google it. You will get to know more about those things, right? Because different companies are performing alpha testing in different ways. But there are some standard how it should be done. Okay. Beta testing is conducted by external user. That is the main difference. If you see here, beta testing is from the external user or the real user actually, who will be using the software at the end. Those kind of users will actually test it. So you must have uh, heard about beta version is released for a particular software, right? Or a beta version of any operating system is released, or beta version of some library is released, right? What is that? Basically, software is ready. Now, the software company wants that the real user will test it at their end. They will give the feedback based on their experience, right? So that is called beta testing. But theoretically, you can again Google about difference between, let's check it, difference between alpha and beta testing. Why not? We should check it, right? So alpha testing primarily takes place within the organization, whereas beta testing takes place in the user's environment. Let's understand this too. So for the alpha testing, you can ask your client to come at your place and check the system. So for the people you are making the software, you can ask them to come and they will check in your presence and they will tell you, okay, this is working, this is not working, something like that. Whereas in the beta testing, software will be released and they may check on their own end, in their own country or anywhere, wherever they want to check it. It's like this. Okay. But for the better understanding, let's open one more blog here, which is from Geeks for Geeks, and they have given proper difference of how alpha and beta will be done. Okay, it's like this. And if you see here, they have given proper difference, but the basic difference what I have shown you, right? That is the main basic difference about alpha and beta testing. Some other kind of testing also involved here, contract acceptance testing, which will actually check some agreed upon contract that is matching with their acceptance criteria or not. So for example, there may be a contract that my application, when I'm submitting a form, the response should come within 500 milliseconds. Okay, so that is written in some contract when when we start building this software. So that kind of testing will be contract acceptance testing. Rest of the things you can leave, or if you want to read it, it's fine. Usability, UAT, regulation acceptance and all. But basic things are these three: alpha, beta, and contract acceptance testing. Now, who should write this acceptance criteria? That is again another question. When you are making a Jira ticket, right, there are acceptance criteria. Those will be helpful to perform UAT. Okay. So that should be ideally done by business analyst. Ideally, or you can talk with your business analyst and then put it into the Jira ticket that this is our acceptance criteria for a particular ticket or a particular feature. Okay. It works like this. So UAT basically is user acceptance testing. Uh, when we will do it at the end of your feature test, you want the real user to test it, or the representative of the user should test it to on their own way. So test engineer will not drive that these are my 10 test cases, do it. It's not like that. Use UAT, should be performed independently from the group of users, let's say BAs or client facing team or the real user. They will have their own scenarios. The testing team, the real testing team should not dictate or drive UAT ideally. But in some companies, it's happening that UAT is done by the test engineers, which is not a good practice actually, right? So that's it about the UAT part.